What is up, everybody, and welcome back to Shooting the Shit Uncensored. It is me, your host, the bald, the beard, the beautiful, the dad bod, fucking God himself, Piers Austin, and we are brought to you by the MWA Podcast Network. Guys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, I am very excited to have my guest on this evening, Mr. Billy Preston. Billy's a guy I've wanted to have on the show for a long time. I'm really pumped to have him on. But before I bring out Mr. Preston, I'm going to take a quick second, a quick moment, a quick pause for the cause to thank some of those amazing sponsors that help me keep these fluoro lights going on around the house. First up is Sleefs.com. That's SLEEFS, Sleefs.com. Now, listen, if you are an athlete or someone you know is an athlete, you need to check out Sleefs.com. They've got armbands, compression pants, compression shorts, compression socks, headbands, mouth guards, boots, and even dirty boxes. Guys, they sent me, and I always say this, they sent me a box of the dirty boxes. And guys, these are the most comfortable boxes that I own. And I'm just trying to say boxes and see how many times I can say box and boxes in one sentence. See how many you can get. Boxes. Anyway, guys, they sent me a box of the boxes. They're absolutely amazing. I'm an active guy. I'm always on the go, always on the move, chasing after my kids, going to the gym. These boxes stay dry. They stay fresh the whole day long. And they are absolutely amazingly comfortable like you will not believe. And they have some funky designs to keep you the special person in your life giggling at the end of the day when the pants come down. So check out sleeves.com. Use promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on your final purchase. Also, guys, make sure to check out healthvape.com. Now, Health Vape is your healthy vaping alternative, ladies and gentlemen. If you're a smoker or you're a vapor, you're like me. I'm one of those vapor people. I walk around with those things going and chucking up clouds. Guys, do not stress. A healthy alternative is now available. Check out healthvape.com. Check out some of their amazing vape and pod products. All of their products are no nicotine, no addictive or harmful chemicals, and they're vitamin infused. So, guys, go check them out. Use promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on your final purchase. But, guys, also big week happening here at MWA Podcast Network. We pump out 7 shows for you guys every single week. That is a show for every day of the week. We've got this show, Shooting the Shit Uncensored, where you see me sitting down with some amazing people like my guest this evening and having some incredible conversations. We've also got Killing the Business with former ECW original, the Kingpin, Angel Medina. And also on that show is King Mega and the Burger King, Glenn Sexton. But guys, also make sure you check out Get Funked, hosted by former WCW and TNA star Alan Kwee Funk. He has on some amazing guests talking about his times from, going up and down in WCW, training at the power plant. He's had on some amazing guests that don't usually do podcasts and some that have never done podcasts. So go back, check out some of their amazing shows on Get Funked. But also, guys, check out Nights of the Gimmick Table, hosted by the Dead Presidents, tag team indie legends. Guys, these guys have been around for the last 20 years. They've traveled all over the United States, and they're two of the most respected guys on the indie scene in the US today. They have on some amazing shows. They have guests that come on that they're friends with, they've trained with, that they've been on shows with up and down the roads, and they tell some amazing stories, and there's a lot of fun that happens on that show. So make sure you check it out. Also, check out Wrestling with Sports, the NXT Roundup, and the Funk and Kingpin Show every single week, guys. We are nonstop here. We are your one-stop shop for all your pro wrestling, multimedia, and entertainment. I can see we got a few people in the crowd, in the audience tonight. Mr. Joshua Tattersall, what is up? Kyle Eade, looking forward to seeing you here. Thank you very much. But guys, without further ado, I'm going to bring in my guest, the man himself, Billy Preston. Dude,
hey,
thank
Piers,
you.
how's it going? Yeah, no worries, man. I liked your introduction, the bold, the beard, the beautiful. Like, it was pretty cool.
Oh, I'm a pretty cool guy, man. I like to think.
Yeah.
So yeah, I try to be anyway.
No worries, man. Well, thanks for having me on.
Man, it's an absolute pleasure. As I said in the intro, man, I've really wanted to have you on for the longest time, man. I really enjoy your work that you and Jimmy have been able to do, that I've been able to catch, and really looking forward to seeing the next chapter in your career as well, which we were just talking briefly about. But mate, look, we've just come out of lockdown, and obviously PWA just had their return show, which everyone looked like they were just working their asses off, and looked in phenomenal shape. How was lockdown for you, and how have you felt sort of now coming back out of that and going back into the open again?
Well, like lockdown was an interesting experience for me. Like, I think I coped better in the first lockdown that we had. The second one's been a bit more rough, just especially because before I was actually working as like an essential worker, and like I pretty much first lockdown didn't affect me at all. And then now, like, now I'm in a bit more of like an office kind of job. I'm working from home like 5 days a week. It was pretty tough to be honest. But in terms of kind of wrestling, like I kind of poured my energy into focusing on character creation and coming up with kind of fun ideas for what to do when to come back. And I think it'll definitely pay off when we return basically on December 3rd at Max Watts, which I'm really excited for because I haven't been to the venue in a long time, and it has a lot of good memories for me. So I think it'll be a really fun night.
You know what? I've never been to a Max Watt show, and everybody
Really?
tells me you've got to go to Max Watt. You've got to go to a Max Watt show.
Yeah. Well, look, Factory Theatre is great. I've definitely, even the Academy shows have a really good vibe to it. It's just something tangible in the atmosphere of Max Watts is, it just makes the show kind of come alive, like the crowd. But it's just on a different level. You have the lights, you have the big Tron, you have the mezzanine level as well, which you've probably seen Jude tumble off of. It's a really cool kind of vibe, and I'm always happy when I'm there, basically.
Oh, I bet, man. Like I've seen photos, I've watched shows that have been there, but I just haven't actually physically been there for a show. But like the atmosphere looks amazing. I'm definitely excited to be there. Hopefully, to check out the show on December 3rd. But we're talking briefly, man, and the last time we really seen you wrestle, well, I think was the PWA Premiership.
Yeah, look, there were a couple of matches in between those, I think, but nothing super crucial. The Premiership was kind of an interesting experience for me, especially because it was at a time where I don't think I was super comfortable as a singles performer. I literally went from always having Jimmy, always kind of being in a tag match, or in a kind of singles match, which was kind of more like a squash where I'd get the piss beaten out of me and then turn it around real quick. 1, 2, 3, schoolboy. So in terms of kind of like having to think and like, all right, what's my kind of move set? What's Billy Preston do? Because most of my stuff was, all right, here's what we do. We do this tag double move maneuver. We'll have, a little bit here, and then we'll move into kind of, the next part of the match. That's kind of our strategy in terms of as a tag team. As a singles performer, it was an interesting experience, and it definitely helped me a lot as a performer, just being able to kind of get those reps in. Like, we had 7 matches. Everyone had 7 matches each over the whole Premiership. So it was definitely, I got to wrestle, people like Mick Moretti, Charlie Evans, some really kind of, really great people, Unsocial Jordan as well. And it was just, really eye-opening for me in terms of like, okay, I need more weapons in the arsenal to kind of, get to where I'm going. And yeah, look, I really enjoyed the Premiership. Also, from a promotional perspective, we had each match after you finish, go backstage, do a promo. And, it was really interesting to kind of, have to come up with something off the cusp. And
it was almost like a New Japan feel to that.
It was,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that was the vibe that we're going for. I know Jax was kind of had a hand in that, and it was pretty interesting to kind of see other people's takes on what they were kind of doing, as well as to kind of like think about, all right, what am I going to say when I get behind there? And yeah, look, I really enjoyed the challenge of like, because normally I'm very like, I'm going to put my promo out. This is what I want to hit. And sometimes like behind there, I'm like, I have no idea what I want to say. I'm just going to wing it and see what happens. And sometimes you get some magic doing that. So
How did you find, like, going through the PWA Premiership and wrestling and performing in front of no one, like in front of an empty crowd? Like, was that challenging for you?
Look, it was an interesting experience, I'll say that. Like,
Mm,
it definitely felt like personally, it's hard because it felt like it was kind of lacking something. It's kind of like if you're a meat eater and you're eating like a vegan burger,
burger,
like
yeah.
yeah, it's kind of it tastes a little bit different. It's still a nutritious meal and can kind of fill you up a little bit, but it just I don't know if you have a crowd of like 300-400 people cheering you on,
Yeah.
it's just a different experience. And also in your head, you're like, I want to soak this in for a little bit. I can tell the crowd's into it. I'm just going to sit here for like 30 seconds and just drink all this in. When you don't have
Mm.
that crowd, it's kind of difficult to kind of pick those spots and do that.
But
Where
how would that even be, like, just going into that situation where you're like, because even like the adrenaline with wrestling, like,
mm,
would that crowd reaction would keep you going, keep you
oh
moving?
yeah,
Was there ever a moment where you like took a bump where it was like you'd taken a bump, the same bump a million times before at a million or thousands of
mm.
different shows, but it hurt differently because you were in front of no one? And was it
Uh,
psychology on that one for you?
Yeah, look, I'm just trying to remember any big bumps that I really took. I think that there's a good gif of Steph Delander, who's now under the name Persia, giving
Yeah.
me giving me like an electric chair onto the ropes, and that was interesting to take.
Yeah.
But in terms of kind of like you get, and also Charlie Evans giving me a nice ring of fire. It's hard to sit there and take that for a while with no crowd behind you. You're just like, all right, this sucks. Ow, this sucks. I need to kind of get out of this as soon as I can.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
yeah, because like if the crowd was there, like cheering me on or cheering her on, like it's different kind of, vibe rather than just like, all right, this sucks. I want to kind of, get out of this as quickly as possible. But
Mm.
that's yeah.
In a way, for me, I actually liked the idea to a certain extent of wrestlers performing not in front of crowds, but obviously a taped show for viewing audiences, because I think as well, in a certain level, like, wrestling to me has always been that sort of like the illusion trick. You know what I mean? Like, it looks like it sucks, it looks like it really hurts, but you know what I mean? Like, it's a display, it's a show. Where I think that it would probably, and I said this when it first happened, where they started doing shows, obviously with no crowds at a high level, and even at this level, is it's going to make performers work better,
Mm,
and you're going to see things a lot more clearer after this pandemic comes open. You're going to see wrestlers performing at a much more crisper level. Whereas, like, the certain things that you're able to sort of get away with an audience because of the noise and that sort of stuff is taken
mm.
away from you. So it's now making you work more tighter in that sense.
Yeah, no,
Would
I
you agree?
understand that. Yeah, look, I definitely think, like I mentioned earlier, it's a different kind of
Mm,
environment because you don't have the luxury of the crowd kind of giving you stuff. So it's a lot of it is you have to rely on yourself and your own knowledge of kind of timings for things, when to do kind of certain moves and where to go from certain points in the match. So because obviously, you know, can fuck up an entire match. But
yeah.
if the crowd loves it, then you can kind of get away with it. But if there's no crowd and it just tanks the whole match, then obviously at home some people might enjoy it, but it's probably
Mhm.
not going to get the same kind of notoriety or give you the same kind of satisfying feeling as if a crowd was out there. So yeah, look, I personally, I want to wrestle in front of crowd.
Sure.
I don't mind. I don't mind wrestling. In front of no one. Just because I'm having fun. But
Yeah.
like, but I'm a performer, so like I kind of thrive off
That
the
audience.
the feeling of being out there. Yeah. So
Mm. How did you feel like after those matches though? Did you walk away feeling like, were you unsure? Was that a good match that I had, or was it like did you have, because you didn't get that sort of instant
mm,
gratification from the crowd?
um, There were a couple that I was like, man, I wish I kind of improved on that. But then I just thought, like, if there was an audience there, like, I obviously couldn't have gone back and redone it. So it's just something that I'll have to kind of like grow and learn and try and focus on the next match. Like, okay, I just had a match with Unsocial Jordan. I didn't like this aspect of it. Let's change that and go into the next match with, with Mick Moretti. So.
But I suppose in wrestling, you have to have that level of resilience as well. Because if you go into the next match and you're worried about something else, it's going to not work out for you in the next match, and you're just going to completely, bombarding yourself with that.
Well, look, I'm blissfully ignorant sometimes. I always focus on the bright side of things. I'm like, yeah, that might have sucked, but we did this really, really well, and I want to focus on that. But obviously, there's an element of self-improvement there as well. So obviously you have to kind of, take your own criticism, but also if you have someone else who's kind of saying, hey, you need to fix this or you need to work on this. Obviously, if they're, an experienced person, they've been in a similar position to yourself, it's probably good advice.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. But, you mentioned sort of, going from being the tag team to now into a singles run. When you started, like, did you guys get partnered up early on in your careers? Is that how the Prefix came to be with you guys?
Yeah. So, at the PW Academy, I basically joined at a really interesting time. So, I joined shortly before the first Will Ospreay show, and we had a really good crop of like rookies at that time. So, I think about 3 months before me, or maybe 6 months, Jimmy came through. He'd been hitting them up since he was 15, or 14 or 15 or whatever. He's like, hey, can you let me in? Can I wrestle? And they're like, yeah, come back when you're 16. We also had Kingsley start in my tryout. We had Frankie B start in my tryout. Green Dingo Pidgey, Green Dingo Joseph, they all started at the same time. We had a massive crop of like 20 rookies at that time start that class, and this was the kind of the first time that we had a massive intake. Before that, it was like I had only heard kind of like people joining, hey Stephen, people joining like maybe 5 or 6, and then by a week 3 or 4, half of them had dropped out. So we had a massive group of 20, whittled down to about 15, came to about 10, and that 10 stuck around for like a good while. So, but during that time, Jimmy was also training. He was kind of at a similar level, a little bit more advanced, just because he had 3-6 months. And then it got to the point where I have a a very young face, and I was
you bastard.
I know. It's so hard being me. And I started when I was about 18, training, and Jimmy was 16 at the time. So like 2-3 years difference. And we were the kind of we were the youngest in the school. And, naturally kind of that pushed us together, just because the age. And then I think there was a point where we had Quackenbush. We had the Quackenbush seminars, the first ones, and he's very insightful on character development. And he had this concept of disposable characters, where you'd come up with a character that have 1 or 2 traits. You'd live in that person's shoes for about a minute, and then if you don't like them, you just chuck them out. If you like them, let's try 5 minutes. What else has this person got? And there were some interesting ones that came up. I think there was Captain Cock, who was like a police stripper or something, or he was a superhero stripper. And
that's why I love Chikara.
Yeah, I can't remember. I can't remember the other ones, to be honest. Captain Cock was the only one worth. But at the end of that, Jimmy and myself were kind of in a corner, and we're like, we look like school kids. Why? Let's just be school kids. And then we expand on that. Let's be preppy school kids. Let's be, those asshole school kids that no one likes.
Private school boys.
Private school boys. And that was like, and then we were trying to think of names, and like the Prefects. That sounds douchey. And then we worked as heels, like at the start, like we were very like, we'll be preppy school kids. People will hate us. And then we just kept doing it, and it got to the point where we just we're naturally silly. Like I am a very like humorous person, and I like to muck around. And then it just got to the point where we were still working as heels. We got the opportunity to wrestle Ugg because Ugg was supposed to wrestle someone else who couldn't make the flight. And that was our kind of big debut at Max Watts in a match. So we got to wrestle Ugg, and obviously Ugg big baby face at the time. So we got to do that, and then we made a couple other appearances. I can't remember if they're before or after, but we did the Wahlberg show where we were tied up, and I was passed out in a pool of cups, and Jimmy was tied up with a dick on his face. So that was pretty fun. And then yeah, so we eventually got to the point where when we were coming out, people were cheering us, and I'm like, oh, okay, you like us? Oh yeah, well let's go with this. And then it just went from there. And then we had the program where we got the schoolboy over as the finish.
Yeah.
And it was just like, that was a great dumb idea. Like I love dumb ideas. They're the best ideas. So yeah, like that was kind of I forgot your original question. It was something about starting out
as a tag team. But you know what, like before you got into wrestling and you started training, like did you sit there and go, all right, gimmick, I'll be a schoolboy? Like
no,
it was that. Yeah, it was.
I think I've gotten better with age. But a lot of people, like I have a shit gimmicks list of just dumb ideas that they come up with, and I'm trying to pass them on to rookies. Hey, do this gimmick, it'd be funny. But I had no idea like what I wanted to be. So this is a good story. When we were first like started doing like promo classes, like originally, like one of the first promo class, I had no idea what I wanted to do. There was myself, Kingsley, and another rookie who were in a group together. We had our own kind of group, and like you could see kind of shades of Kingsley in those promos. My character, I didn't have a character at the time. But I had this idea. I was like, maybe I could be a human Ken doll. For some reason, I had that idea of like, that's an interesting character, and I wanted
that's such a Japanese gimmick though. Like,
I know. Well, like I was gonna like spray tan or do something, and then I think it came from, there was a character in Magic Mike who's on the screen for like a second, and part of his stripping gimmick was he came out of a box, and I was like, that'd be amazing for an entrance, and I was like, yeah, that'd be a great idea for a gimmick, and then I'm like, I'm not handsome enough to do that. And then look, a lot of the characters just came from realism. Like the schoolboy gimmick came from realism. Like I remember I had a conversation with I think Chris Basso, who came and spoke to myself and Jimmy at one of the shows, and he was like, hey, I tell some of the rookies at our school, like, you guys nail the character. Like the rookies there were like, I want to be, this sort of character. And he's like, look at yourself and kind of what would be realistic for you. Like, would you be, like a super soldier army person like Captain America, but, look like me? Probably not realistic. But yeah, look, the schoolboy gimmick just literally came because we looked like 12-year-olds in the ring.
But it was such a good gimmick. Like it is such a good gimmick. And I think as well, like as far as like you guys sort of wrapping up, and I said this with Jimmy and also Cherry when I've had them both on, is like I feel like you guys wrapped it up at a good time, because I feel like when you've got like a school gimmick and something which is age restrictive, it's only going to allow you to do it for a certain amount of time. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that you guys ending it at that right time before it was like, oh, okay, like they've been here for like 10 years now. Like, what's going on? Whereas like having the evolution and evolving the characters is something that's not always seen in wrestling.
Well, here's the thing. You always have to end it on a high, because if you don't end it here, if you wait a little bit and it goes and you end it about here, people don't want to see it like again. If we end it here, maybe in the future there's
a reunion,
a high school reunion. Exactly. So, we left it here, so we had the option to kind of come back if he wanted to. But at this point, Jimmy's doing his own thing. I'm gonna start trying some new stuff, which would be pretty cool. But yeah, look, it's just if you ended on a high, it makes it mean so much more. There's nothing worse than watching your favorite TV show, or and it's amazing for the first 4 seasons, but then they do 4 more, and you're like, okay, I mean, I'll still watch it, but
the Sopranos, perfect example, right?
Yeah, I never
6 seasons.
Yeah, I never watched The Sopranos, but apparently, they capped it off pretty well, which is good. But so interesting. Dexter, I'm watching that at the moment, which is pretty cool. They had 8 seasons, and arguably 4. I liked 5, 6 had some moments. 7 and 8, I won't touch, and it ruined the show for a lot of people. It was kind of It wasn't as big as Game of Thrones, but it had the backlash kind of the ending of Game of Thrones, and they brought it back. Like, I don't know if you've recently seen, but they released a season 9, like 7 or 8 years after the ending of the final season.
I've just seen that recently.
Yeah, and it's like people had so much investment in that they were able to kind of come back and do it again. So it's like it's just an interesting, like the character was established well enough that it could come back and have another run. So that's how I kind of see, Prefects, amazing characters. I think in the future there might be an opportunity for something there, but it'd have to be the right reason to come back. It wouldn't just be a cheap pop. It'd be.
I think it's almost destined that it's gonna come back. You know what I mean? Like, not like come back as like a full-time thing, but I could see it being like it's something that can get touched on, whether it's once a year or something like that, where it's like, and even then, it doesn't need to be like a big moment. It could be like a rumble match where the 2 or 3 of you are standing in the ring at the same time with no one else there, and it's like you have that 30-second or 10-second moment. And the crowd there gets it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think we'll tease you. We'll rub your shoulder. We'll tickle some stuff, but I don't think we'll make the full plunge for a while. But it's I love working with Jimmy. Like, I definitely think we worked really well as a tag team. And even just in terms of just any match that we had together, I think we had really good chemistry. Just in terms of kind of like how to structure things, like I would come up with dumb ideas. He would be like, all right, well, how do we get to it? And always happy to work with him again.
But you know what? That's something that Jimmy said when I spoke to him last week, was that, you've got such a great mind for the business and coming up with ideas and putting things together. He goes, where it's like, it's kind of, it's kind of scary being by myself and not having someone there, like your best mate there who you've like, who is so knowledgeable and being able to put things together.
Yeah, look, I feel that too. Like I felt like he was definitely a crutch that sometimes, I'd definitely lean on if I was stuck in certain points. I'm just reading the comments. Oh, yeah. He's doing some business stuff. Thank you. And then Kyle, I think you said how long I've been doing it for. I've been wrestling for about 2-3 years now, I think. Since training since I was 18, and then on shows for like 2-3 years, I think now.
How do you sit there? Like, can you still sit there and watch wrestling and enjoy it from a fan's perspective, or do you sit there and watch it where it's a critical eye or more of like a worker's eye when you're watching matches now?
That's the thing. Like, I love watching wrestling live. Like, I'll always go and watch wrestling live. In terms of like television product, I can't sit there and watch a 3-hour Raw or like pay-per-views. I'll watch it in the right environment with the boys, but it's not something 100%. that I do as recreation now, just because you're in the bubble and sometimes it's so hard to like just live in the bubble all the time. I like watching highlights and reading up on like what's going on. But yeah, look, I can't I can't watch all the shows, and there's so much content available now. So there's literally like, what do you watch? Do you watch NXT? Do you watch Raw? Do you watch AEW? Like, do you have your own little niche Japanese promotion that only you know about, and you're streaming off, a dodgy website? Like, there's so much, like different avenues that you can watch that it's just it's so hard to, one, keep track of everything, and then two, sit down and invest the kind of the man hours into doing it.
Oh, 100%, dude. Like, and even for me, like, to sit down and watch wrestling, like, it's like I have to take. There's certain aspects where I'll watch, like, I'll watch a certain brand for a period of time, and I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm going to try and watch this for a little bit of time. But trying to watch every single thing that's going on in wrestling worldwide, it's like, it's just too chaotic. There's too much to stay on top of.
Yeah.
Dirty websites.
Dirty websites, yes.
From the German lady. There you go. But
I don't watch any of those dirty websites.
Yeah, me neither, man. Hey, there you go. Hey, well, he is coming off being a schoolboy, so come on.
I mean, that's what schoolboys do anyway.
Well, exactly, man, exactly. But like, as far as where you're looking at now, as far as coming into a new character, as I said to you before, we've seen the evolution of Jimmy, we've seen the evolution of Cherry, and that's where I'm like looking forward to see, like, okay, where's Billy Preston in all this from a storyline perspective, and even from a character perspective, and even talking to you, Billy, like, I see that you're very character driven in your performance and what you put out there as far as in ring goes. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think I've always gravitated towards strong characters. Like, if I'm watching a PWA show, I always like Big Fudge. But if I'm watching the stuff that I grew up with, Undertaker, Kane were always my two favorites. I just love they're two brothers, and they're they're friends, but sometimes they're enemies, and then it's
the story aspect of it that draws you in, though. It's the drama, it's that sort of sensationalism that sort of grabs you, right?
And there's decades of story behind it. So I came up at a time where they'd have Brothers of Destruction was like a big thing on SmackDown when they'd team up and tag together. I'm like, yes, this is my dream as a child. I want to see Brothers of Destruction beat Mr. Anderson and MVP. I love that. Like, the Undertaker as a character, I've always found, like, you just watch him and he has so many, like, I mean, the entrance, 7 minutes to the ring was a bit of a bore as a child. But like, once he got in and he did this, and I'm like, yes. So I always liked the strong characters. Even like as I got older, I obviously liked the in-ring stuff as well, like RVD, Shawn Michaels, Chris Jericho is probably my favorite of all time. But in terms of character, like, I think Chris Jericho is a great character too. Like, he's the master of change. Like, you never see Chris Jericho do the same thing. Like,
I've compared Chris Jericho to the Dave Grohl of professional wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's been cool for 30 years. And it's like unfucking deniable.
Look, he can get a word over. He it over as a catchphrase. And like, in order to do that, you have to have, 1, balls, and 2, a really good understanding of business, basically. And look, he was never stale. Like, when he felt that he was getting stale, he'd mix it up. He'd change. Like, he wasn't afraid to change things completely. Like, he went from the long tights and the long hair, shaved it off, and wore the little trunks. And I definitely like aspire to do that. Where if I'm getting to a point where I think, like, I obviously want to change, it's a bit hard because when you're at our level, you shouldn't really change for like a good while. Like, obviously Prefects had a natural kind of end, and then there was that period where I was doing, during the premiership, I was kind of doing a bit of a vanilla kind of character. That's what I felt, at least. And then during this lockdown, I kind of took the time and I was like, okay, I want to come back, I want to do something that's different. And look, I think, like, I don't want to give too much away because I think there'll be some like content coming out soon to kind of hype the show, hype the character. And I think, look, I definitely think that it's going to be a really enjoyable, new approach to Billy Preston. And look, hopefully, people enjoy it. I think from the the advice and the feedback that I'm getting from other people and other wrestlers, I think that it's definitely something that people will enjoy.
And I don't want to go into too much detail about and spoil it for anyone about the new character. Can you tell us, is the character, because I kind of got the feeling at the end of the Prefix and we started to see that winding up, and seeing you guys together, it was, a lot of comedy sort of spots together, because it was like, there was a lot of fun seeing you guys together. It's a fun thing to see. And there was a lot of sort of funny moments that went into it as well.
Yeah.
But my feeling and the takeaway from that beautiful cinematic match, schoolyard match that you guys had, was that we're going to see a more serious, maybe even a darker side to you. Is that what we're going to be seeing in the new character?
I think I've gone the complete opposite
of that, or like,
yeah, I think.
Okay, well, okay.
I think we had serious Billy Preston. Like we had sorry, my dog's just come in to say hello. Hang on.
Oh, good.
There we go. Yeah, we had serious Billy Preston during the premiership. He was going through a breakup basically with Jimmy. He didn't know it yet, but it was kind of getting to the point where it was over, and he was he was trying to be his own person. He was trying to be an adult, because his character was, he was sick of doing the kid stuff, so he refused to do any of the tricks and the goofy stuff that was getting him victories as a competitor, and he kind of suffered for that. And then now, like, I like being, I like being a good guy. I like being someone that people cheer for, and I think my dog's name is Honey, Leanne. But yeah, look, I like being, someone that people cheer for and look up to, but also a little bit funny as well. So I was just coming up with ideas. Like, I've always been, I don't think I've always been, but I've definitely worked on innovative ideas. Like, that was something that I did at university. I took a course in innovation, and one of the, there's different tricks and strategies that you can use to come up with creative ideas. One of them is literally, what's the worst possible idea that you can come up with to make something work? And it'll be something like, how are we gonna solve world hunger? Well, let's take all the dead bodies that we have, and we'll just ship them to the stuff like that. And it's like, hang on, we can't do that. How can we make it more viable? And then you work backwards from the worst idea to get to a good idea. And that's character creation for I'm always telling the rookies and the people who are trying to get on shows now, unless you come in and you can do what Paris can do, or someone who's super athletic can, you have to have a strong character. That's the reason that the Prefects did so well. It's the reason that Cherry's doing great, because she's definitely got unique characteristics, and that's something that the powers that be will see, and and they'll help you develop, and they'll give you the opportunities to kind of work on them in front of people, and just coming up with unique characters. I think Nikki Van Blair asked me to kind of talk about some of my crazy characters that I come up with. I just have a running list of dumb characters that I write.
So do you write them for yourself, or are you writing these for other people?
I write them for myself, and I write them for the boys partially as well. And the boys contribute to it as well. It's like I can't remember who it was, but they came up with these characters as well. What is it like? No Gimmick Steve the Ninja, or whatever it was. What famous wrestler had, but we come up with dumb characters. Two of my favorites. I'll share these two, because I think one day these will be mine, so I don't want to share them all. But yes, JT.
What about JT's?
Man car. This is my idea. You should snake it from me. Half man, half car. Man car was abandoned by his parents and then raised by cars. And as such, he goes to make a living as a professional wrestler. Now, his nemesis is, of course, the Meter Fairy, who's the biggest heel in all of professional wrestling. Everyone hates Meter Fairy.
Jesus.
Yeah, so that's those are my babies. No one can take them from me.
That's awesome. I love that.
And look, I come up with like, then I'll add to it. So I'm like, the meter fairy. He should come out and chalk people's chairs on the entrance, or he has a 2-hour parking sign he sneakily puts behind people sitting down, and then he's like, it's like 7th match on the card. You've been here 3 hours. Writes him up a $110 fine. Comes out and does a promo. While you guys have been sitting here, I've been out ticketing all your cars, and you all have $300 fines. Boo!
You know what? Like, I think everyone's had an altercation. Anyone who's driven a motor car has had to deal with something like that. So I think, you know what? You're right. Crazy enough, it could be a good heel gimmick.
I look, dumb characters are great. And then, like, Prefects started as a dumb character. And then it just, well, let's add to it. What else can we add, And there's no point being someone who is, I'm this guy who's a good guy and likes to do good. You need defining characteristics. You need, I'm a character who's a kleptomaniac and I like to steal things. Like, that's my character. I'll be a shoplifter, and like, or I'll be, I'll be like someone who really likes ice cream but is lactose intolerant. Like, you need those defining characteristics to be interesting as a character. Yeah. Otherwise, the more you're different, the more people will associate with you, I think. And, like, look at Big Fudge. Like, he's the most out there character, I think, in PWA. He's a 7 foot tall black man who is living in a 5'6" white guy's body, but he also is a living chocolate bar or whatever he is. Like, and he's a luchador. Like, imagine just pitching that to someone who's never seen Big Fudge before, and they're like, "What?" So no, hang on. Yeah, no, that's him. And like, you act like it's completely normal because it is to you, but to other people, it's just the most bonkers thing they've ever heard. And that's why I love wrestling. It's because it's insane if you haven't seen it before.
Exactly. Like, on paper though, like, some of like the most, like, even you look at any sort of like stories, like, what was it, like, it was The Lion King, the story about how a young guy is like runs away from his family after his family was killed by a crazed uncle, who then tries to kill him after then going and living with 2 weird strangers for the next several, you know what I mean? Like, when you look at the story as a whole, you're like, what the fuck? Like, and this is a kid's show.
Well, that's the thing. Even The Lion King is an adaptation of, Shakespeare. Like, and then wrestling, most of the wrestling is an adaptation of other stuff. Like, I think they got a lot of good stuff from, classic soap operas, and then, we pinch stuff from movies and other influences all the time. And like, people just love stories, and like, there's great stories out there, but also there's original stories as well that you only see in the wrestling ring. Like, it's a movie that you can come and watch and be present of, and then talk to the actors afterwards, who are also stuntmen, who are also horrible people and good guys and superheroes. So it's something that's completely different to any form of theater or any form of entertainment that you've ever seen. That it's just,
I agree with you, and I find it funny where it's like, for example, like, wrestlers couldn't go out and portray certain characters because of the reaction it would get from an audience. But and like Brad Pitt, for an example, can go and play the exact same character and be given an Oscar for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that with wrestling being a live performance, it gives, I think, fans that thing to say, well, hang on, they can be more boisterous about, hang on, I don't like this. This is not what, you know what I mean? But like, you as that character portraying that character, you would then get the hatred for that, because it's like, oh, well, hang on, you're portraying a heel, which I don't like because of X, Y, and Z.
Well, I think the difference is wrestlers. Let's say, for instance, we had. Oh, he's good. We just had his 60th birthday the other weekend, Leanne. But yeah, look, you could have a wrestler go out and portray a Nazi, right? Let's say that's a very controversial. It would probably not be appropriate to be a character. and you could have, you could have Brad Pitt playing a Nazi in a movie, but people disassociate it because for the 90 minutes that they suspend their disbelief in that movie watching Brad Pitt, Christoph Waltz, he played, an SS officer, and you watch him, you can think, oh, this guy is despicable, he's the Jew hunter. That's his character, really interesting character. And he played it like perfectly. But after those 90 minutes, you see like, if you were to look up an interview with him, you see the real person. You see, you disassociate yourself. Wrestlers spend, I think, majority of their time trying to get fans to buy into their character and to absolutely 100% believe that this is that person. So whenever they go out and say, oh, if they were to go out and say I'm a Nazi, or I'm a person who believes in that ideology, like it would kick off. Like it's something that, even though you watch a movie and you watch wrestling and they're both entertainment, it's different just purely based on what the wrestlers are trying to achieve and what like a film's trying to make money, wrestlers are trying to make money as well, but it's just a different kind of atmosphere. I don't know, it's an interesting kind of
no, I get what I get what you're saying, because it's like the whole thing of being a wrestler is selling people what they're seeing as being this is who I am, this is exactly who I am when you see me at the shopping mall next week down the road. So I understand where you're coming from with that, because it does make a lot of sense.
And also you have those old-fashioned people who are their character 100% of the time. So if they're a heel to you in the show, and then you come up to them in real life, they'll be a heel to you as well. So you have that aspect as well.
That's just I find like that would just be a reason just to be a dick to people. It's like, I'm being a heel, fuck off.
Well, then there's times that's appropriate, and then there's probably times where that's not. It's very hard to judge. That's why I like being a good guy. I like
just be the friendly guy.
People come up to me, take a photo, cuddle, and then that's it. I don't have to, insult people or be mean. I can just like, hey, I made that person's day. All right, I feel good about myself.
And I suppose that's a really big important part of it as well, like it is being that sort of good guy. But, as far as like when you guys had that cinematic match, like I feel like your role sort of took on that role of a heel in that match. How was it for you? Like obviously someone who prefers to be, the baby face, getting the pop from the crowd, to sort of going and sort of altering to being something that you might not be too comfortable with, and that's a heel.
Well, look, I looked at it from the perspective that I wasn't a heel. It was just, we were both sympathetic. The fact that Jimmy just got more sympathy in that scenario, because if you look at it from a relationship's point of view, whenever someone gets broken up with, they usually get more sympathy than the person who does the breaking up. And that was just something that like kind of naturally happened, where he was getting more sympathy and kind of he had more of the kind of crowd and the audience behind him. I tried not to play too much into like, no, I'm the bad guy in this situation. It was because I think if you look at it, like my perspective is pretty reasonable perspective as well. Like, and the storyline was we did naturally drift apart. Like I was going to university, he was still doing the prefix thing, and like I said previously, like you can't do the same thing all your life. It comes to a point where you need to change, and like people are afraid of change. Like people don't want change, but sometimes change is good. That's why we have now Cherry doing amazing stuff. We have Jimmy doing his new character. And evolving as a person. And I think that's something that's really interesting in the story. But in terms of kind of like the story arc as a whole, like I talked to you earlier about how we take ideas from movies and, we're storytellers. And I think one of the, like, if you look at the character of the Prefects, you could probably pinch some stuff from the In-Betweeners, pinch some stuff from Superbad, and that's kind of where we got the idea for how to kind of end it, in terms of where our characters were going. Like in Superbad, you see two friends who are good friends. Like there's Evan and Seth, who are just, they're like this, but they're slowly coming apart because this person's going to one school, this person's going to another school, and this person's trying, like Seth's trying really hard to kind of stay on, and he comes off as a bit of a dick in the movie, and I felt like that was kind of, if we were to kind of pin characters, like I think Jimmy was Michael Cera, I was Jonah Hill a little bit, like but kind of he was the one who was trying to hang on a little bit, and I was trying to get some space, but I was coming off as a bit of a dick. And if you kind of see the ending of Superbad, I think it parallels how our story kind of unfolded. We look back at each other, we still think, there's something there, but like just our lives are driving us apart, and it's sad, like, and I think the reason that it was so emotional for people is people probably experience that in their own life. Like I remember like talking, like I'm really lucky because I still hang out with a lot of the people I went to school with, and I didn't really make much friends at university. Like I'm still hanging around with people from high school, and I've also got the wrestling group as well that I interact with. But there's probably a lot of people who, like, they've had friends and just stuff in their lives happened. They've moved away, they've gotten jobs, or they started families, and you have someone who
life happens really sometimes with, man. It's
you're really close with them, and then they just one day stop answering your texts, they go away, and then it's sad, like, and it's one of those things where it's not a definite end sometimes, like it'll just be something that happens naturally. Sorry to be a bit of a bummer, but
no, but dude, that happens in life, and you're 100% right. And I think that the way that ending happened, and me and Jimmy spoke about this as well, is like every person has had a close friend that they've drifted away from, and stuff like that has happened. You're a young guy, so you still spend a lot of time with people you went to school with, and I hope you hold on to those friendships. But with life, it does. You get older, you have kids, you have you evolve as a human being, and sometimes people just drift. It doesn't always necessarily have to be a fuck you moment at the end of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And look, I think we had that argument at the start of the match, but I think by the end of it, it was just a kind of mutual thing of like, okay, well, let's go away from each other for a little bit and kind of see what happens. Let's both grow on our own and kind of see what happens from that. And like it was, I think that was the best way to kind of handle it, in my opinion, is just like, you've seen tag teams before break up, but I don't think in that way. I think that was like a different approach to, like, I think there were points where we might have teased, or we might have crowd might have thought that maybe I would turn on Jimmy, or he might turn on me, or Cherry might do something like there. I think people had expectations, or certain expectations of what they were going to think was going to happen, and I'm glad that we went the way that we did, just because it was something new that I don't think people had seen before, but it was so relevant and so
it was something different, and I think as well it hit that emotional string as well. Like it told a story. Like the match was like sort of a ups and downs of emotions for that match for anybody watching it. Then the end of it, like I said, very, very emotional, and sort of just walking off into the sunset, and then that's it. You know what I mean? Like, as I said, not everything needs a big fuck you moment at the end of it. And I think that by going down this route, that you guys did, it leaves it so much open to interpretation for a return, as we mentioned earlier. But also, you didn't go down the same path of, okay, no worries, let's have a big, like, you turn on him, he turns on you, then there's this big, long, lengthy feud where you guys, with a natural progression is from a performance aspect, that you guys feud for 2 to 3 shows or 2 to 3 months, and then go on from there, where this is more of long lines of so long, pal, and on our way.
Well, yeah, look, I think like people, yeah, I think Leanne Leanne doesn't want that match, but some people might have wanted to see that. Like some people might wanted to see, you know, us fight or us, you know, very angry at each other and going at each other's throats. But I think the where we left it now in the back of people's minds are like, okay, you know, I'm interested to see where these people go from here. And then I'm also interested to see when these guys come back together and when these guys, or if these guys will ever kind of reform and like do, like there's stuff twirling in the back of people's minds that they're just like, oh, like I just saw this match with Jimmy. He's doing great. I wonder what'll happen, you know, in a couple of years' time if these two were to kind of come back together and do something. Like I think there's that little nagging thing in the back of people's heads that it's building anticipation for something that, you know, might happen in the future.
Hey man, I reckon do the comeback when you're both about 70 years old and do the Prefix schoolboys.
So
you know what I mean?
that's
just do high, just do like low budget shows.
So my idea is to wear the exact same gear when we're 50, and not do any bumps, and that'll be my gimmick from there. Like, but the problem is I have to live to get to that point and do other stuff in the meantime. So I'm literally just waiting until I'm 50.
Schoolboy's over strong.
Yeah, look, imagine being a 50-year-old high school boy. I think that'd be funny. It'd be hilarious.
That would be awesome. But only if like you came out and then it was like, but then you'd be selling like 50-year-old man problems though. Like, oh, this fucking hernia.
I think it'll be the opposite. I think it'll be at a stage where we'll just reference stuff from this time period. We'll just be like, oh yeah, check out this TikTok, Jimmy. What is that? Check out this. Ah, yes, he's doing a dab. And like people will be like, fuck you guys.
Is that Cardi B? Make it WAP.
Oh.
Moving on from that. But look, we are getting to that time, guys. It is that time of the show for 60 seconds with Piers. How it works is we're going to start the clock. Billy has 60 seconds to answer as many questions as he can. When you're ready, let me know. We can start the clock and we get the game started, Billy.
All right, let's go.
Which wrestler would you love to go out drinking with?
Ooh, Warburg's a good one. Or Kai Drake.
Home barbecues or nightclubs?
Home barbecues.
Snapchat or TikTok?
Snapchat.
Favorite Australian place to visit?
Australian place to visit. I have some family in Brisbane, so I like to go up to Brisbane sometimes.
Okay. What is your biggest fear?
Ooh, death. I'm afraid that I'll die in the ring someday, but
sorry, go on. What is the worst gift you ever received?
My brother got me for Christmas one time a mini inflatable blow up doll.
A mini one.
And it didn't work. You know, it was tiny and it didn't inflate up. So,
what is your go-to party trick?
I don't know actually. Yeah, I don't have a party trick.
If you could delete one item from the world, what would it be?
What's that? That coriander. Yeah, get rid of coriander.
Fuck coriander. Yeah. Okay, last one. In 5 minutes, you are being shipped to outer space. What two personal belongings do you take with you, excluding human beings?
Okay. My DVD collection and a DVD player, or a mini DVD player, so I could have a screen and play it as well. Yeah.
Nice. That's smart thinking there.
Yeah.
But that has been 60 seconds with Piers. Billy, look, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. This hour has literally flown by.
Yeah.
And it's just been an amazing conversation, dude. I'd love to get you back on for a part 2 somewhere down the line if we can. Maybe after December 3rd, after your debut of the new character, we can go through that.
I think that'd be, you know, a good idea. And it definitely did fly for me as well. So yeah, thanks, Piers.
Perfect, man. Where can everyone find you on social media and get some merch?
So I am terrible at social media. That's my one fatal flaw. So I think on Twitter I'm Prefect Billy, but that'll probably change soon. I don't know my Instagram. I think it's the same, Prefect Billy. And on Facebook it's Billy Preston _ the Prefect, I think. But yeah, merch, none yet, but hopefully we'll get some out fairly soon.
There you go, guys. Also, huge shout out to our sponsors, healthvape.com and sleefs.com. Use promo codes MWAPod to get a 10% discount on your final purchase on both of those. Guys, also make sure you tune in tomorrow at 11 a.m. Australian time. Alan Funk's interview with Johnny Swinger drops at 11 a.m. Sydney time, which is 7 p.m. USA Eastern time. So, guys, make sure you watch out for that. Also, check out Knights of the Gimmick Table and Killing the Business and Get Funked. Oh, sorry. The Funkin' Kingpin Show, Wrestling with Sports, NXT Roundup. We've got everything going on, guys. We are your one-stop shop for all your pro wrestling entertainment and media. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, like, share. You can find us on all podcast platforms on the MWA Podcast Network. You can find us on the web at mwapodcastnetwork.com, on all social media at MWA World. And guys, thanks for tuning in. Until next time, I'm Piers. This is Billy. We'll see you very, very soon. Until then, take care. Peace.